Thank you very much, Jasmine. Good evening, Galway. How are you? Yeah, I mean, that is the right thing to shout when someone says, how are you? You just look straight at them and go, woo! I know everyone's got to go back to their parents for Christmas, and your mum sits you down and goes, what kind of a year have you had, Steve? And I just go, woo! Just to make that fucking conversation stop. What I meant when I said, how are you, Galway, was, of course, how are you single people of Galway with full citizenship, who, if they marry someone, that person gets residency in any EU nation. Hello, I've come over as the official ambassador of Britain, recently rebranded as Idiot Country. It's not even that bad. I'm from the fucking worst bit. I'm from England, and roughly the middle of it, which means I'm not talking to anyone I went to school with ever again. Because those fuckers messed it up for everybody. I don't know, but there's been this long tradition in England that we have jokes called Englishmen, Irishmen, and Scotsman jokes. We've had to rewrite them all now. Because at the halfway point, the Englishman just storms out in tears, punching himself in the face. And we sit there going, yeah, that's our national character. Anything that hurts us and makes us sad. It's very good. It's very exciting being here last. Because, if we treat this as an academic thing, I get right of reply to all of the previous speakers. So I've been taking notes on graph paper to try and appeal to you, because I thought you might be quite a nerdy crowd. I have very strong opinions on the sales of graph paper in Galway, and they're as follows. If you go in a shop in Galway and you buy graph paper, and they say, do you want a bag? And you haven't got a bag, don't put it in a fucking paper bag. It's December in Galway. What do you think the bag is for my 200 sheets of paper? Right, first page just says this is notes. Second page doesn't say anything useful. Carolyn, where's Carolyn? You mentioned the Gregorian calendar and the change to the Gregorian calendar. So because I'm a professional science comedian, one of my favorite things is just to annoy people who love facts. And one of the things I do is read up on every conspiracy theory going. The Gregorian calendar conspiracy theory is the best one you have ever heard. When we shifted from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar was out by 1 day per century, so they should have deleted 13 days. But it turns out they only had to delete 10. And a shit historian called Herbert Illig has come up with the theory that this is because the years AD 614 to 911 don't exist. Genuinely one of the best Wikipedia pages you could possibly... That means Charlemagne completely made up, never existed at any point. What I like about this is there's people who believe this and write books about it, because there's enough humans now that A, we've thought of basically everything, no matter how stupid, and B, there's some people who go along with anything, no matter how stupid. The Wikipedia page has a section just called, reservations. And the first bullet point is, the main problem with this theory is it's clearly rubbish. Christopher, you mentioned the Elephant Man. I didn't know the Elephant Man. And I'm kind of quite on top of all the superhero stuff, right? I'm into Marvel and DC. So I looked him up. His powers are rubbish. I mean, how do you sell that to the TV producers? Are you going to save the world by being ugly and dying early? Anyway, let's throw that one away. Sarah. Now, where's Sarah gone? Sarah, right. So the thing I was really taken with was that you said that in every time you play the vulva game, there's one man who thinks he's very clever and says, Lord of the Vulvas. There's always one. The thing is, I found a worse annoying man thing to do, and that is films with only one word in their names. Because some of my favourite films playing the game are Vulva, 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 and Vulva. Or for those of you who like classic films, Vulva, 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 and Vulva. And weirdly, even vulva works for this. Sorry, that's Drive, Chef, Arrival, Inception, Titanic, Jaws, Alien, Psycho, Rocky, and Ghostbusters. I don't know if you get the plural. Would Ghostbusters be vulvas or just I don't know. Sarah Jones, they didn't know what grime was, did they? We had that discussion. Kerry, where are you? Right. There's a question you got asked halfway through by someone who loves question-based learning, and you never answered it. How high is the tree? Because that was a very specific heckle that went completely undealt with. How high is the tree was the question you got. The tree is as high as the giraffe. So there's different trees for the two different giraffes. Just one tree for both. Okay, good, right. Has that set your mind at ease? It's a flat no from over there. I think we've hit the weakness of inquiry-based learning, which is when you ask a question the teacher hadn't prepped for. I've also just written down marine biology. Is this the study of the effects of fighting on elite American soldiers? We'll get there. Well, so you mentioned flat Earth. Flat Earth is one of my favourite things at the moment because you can make scientists just burst into tears by saying it. But the reason I love talking about flat Earth is that if you get involved with like one of the big evil conspiracies like climate change, like being a climate change denier has actual negative effects on the world. We see people screwing up politics all over the place by climate change denial. As far as I know, there are no well-funded flat Earth think tanks ruining science. So I feel perfectly happy going, oh yeah, it's flat Earth, yeah. And then the other thing that I've found is that if you use a fisheye lens to take a picture of the horizon, it bends it that way, thus proving that we don't live on a sphere, we live on the inside of a hoop. And that really makes scientists upset. So let's find out. Galway, give me a cheer if you're having a good day so far today. Give me a cheer if you're not having a good day so far today. Where were they? Did you? So what's been wrong with your what? Work's rough, is it? Dare I ask what work you do that's so rough? Sandpaper manufacture? Software developer, and you're the long pole. Is that a term in the software developing industry for the person with the longest pole? What is it? Oh, you're really, really behind. Okay. Is anyone else in the room a software developer? I'm just trying to find you help, because this is the way this works. Do any of you work in, like, management or process sciences, anything that we could help this man with? No. Any of you who else was having a bad day? This is a well-worn bit. You're the first person that no one's been able to help in an entire crowd. All the time. Was anyone else having a bad day behind him? What? Don't say short pole, because then I'm lost. Undergraduate exams. Are you marking them or are you sitting them? They're not that hard, mate. I've been hosting days of talks for like 16-year-olds doing exams back home, and every time I end it with, if any of you get less than an A in anything, you're idiots. And that never goes down that well. So what subject are you studying? Physics, so you couldn't decide. Is that what? Oh, you need them all. Right, where are the physics people in the room? You can offer this person tutoring, yes? Did any of you set the exam? Because there might be university people here, and we could, like, form a pact together that we are never going to let this out of the room. We'll find you some tutors. It'll be... Jessamine, of course. We were talking about how she loves... You set the exam. Just think, are you doing any Bright Club evaluation tonight? Can you imagine how good their form would be? Dear Science Foundation Ireland, I literally changed my life. I earned €2 million for the economy. I'm happier than I've ever been, and my cancer was cured by Bright Club tonight. I didn't like curing cancer. Well, it didn't work at all, did it? No, the reason I do this, the reason I talk to people about their days and try and cheer them up is just that I hate psychologists so much. I'm trying to replace them. Because I don't know if any of you have ever worked with psychologists, but they have a nasty habit of doing their job when they're not supposed to be doing their job. They're just meant to be being normal people. And I always think, if I'm not paying you to dissect my character, that's judging. That's not psychology. I went on a few dates with a clinical psychologist, and it was date, I think, 5 or 6. So those of you who've done some of the internet dating can work out roughly where we're at. Like, we've started to discover the things the other one are into that actually we find a bit distasteful. It's that point. But anyway, we're having an evening, and it's been a very successful evening. Boxes have all been ticked, as it were, by which I mean I made her a 3-course meal. And we're sitting on the sofa talking about something, probably how brilliant I am. And she said to me, she stopped me, and she said, "Steve, do you find you have a problem connecting with people?" So my only answer to this was to list 12 people in alphabetical order that I connect with very well, and then never message her again on any system. And that seemed like the best way to sort the whole thing out, because like I don't want to be told stuff like that. I don't know if any of you tried mindfulness while we're on psychology. Mindfulness. It's not very nice to out someone as a mindfulness user, is it? That might be the secret he was planning to take to his grave. Anyone else? Has anyone tried mindfulness? Those of you who haven't tried it, mindfulness is like the rebranding of meditation so that you can sell colouring books. And you're supposed to like stay very calm and very silent. And people always say mindfulness, it's so good, Steve, it's so good. You really focus on your breathing. It's like a chance to focus on your breathing. And I always reply, I'm a fucking asthmatic. I have to focus on my breathing every second of every day, or I die. And that's what the mindfulness people, they're just amateur asthmatics. They're essentially they're cosplaying as asthmatics. They're terrible things. The other thing I found about mindfulness is that after I do it for a little bit, I suddenly think the world isn't real anymore when I open my eyes. And like everything is like watching telly, and you just think you can put your hands through things. So I did talk to a professor of psychology. I said, whenever I try mindfulness, I suddenly think the world's not real. And she said to me, that, Steve, is what is known as a pre-psychotic episode. I said, what should I do? She said, don't do any more fucking mindfulness, you nutter. That was the entire thing we took away. What else was I going to talk to you about? Oh, I was going to tell you how terrible my life is. So my job is, I'm a science comedian. I do gigs like this all the time in front of very intelligent, very attractive audiences like this one who love facts. My audiences always love facts so much. They love rationalism and accuracy. My audience are the sort of people, genuine quote, after an Edinburgh Fringe gig, I did a show and a girl came up to me and tried to chat me up, but she was one of my audience, so she didn't want to be wrong. Right, that she wanted error bars on everything she said. So she looked at me and she went, you were very funny, and you know what? You look like a number of famous people, but none enough for me to say a name. But anyway, this is what my life is like. I was playing at the Blue Dot Festival at Jodrell Bank. Physicists, we know Jodrell Bank? Does anyone else know Jodrell Bank? It's a big, like, giant satellite dish, about 150 meters across, pointing at the sky. And the thing is, when I was a kid, if you had a little satellite dish in Britain, it meant you were trying to watch football, right? Because that was pointed at a sky satellite. If you had a big satellite dish, like this big, it meant you were trying to point your satellite dish at a satellite that wasn't really aimed at Britain. Maybe a Dutch satellite, a Swedish satellite. I'm saying only people with big satellite dishes watch porn all day. It's like their internet history was stuck on the outside of their house as a giant metal dish. So in my head, the bigger your satellite dish, the more niche your tastes. I arrive at Jodrell Bank, 100-meter wide satellite dish. What are these guys doing? Anyway, so I'm at Jodrell Bank, and we're doing a giant kind of music and science and comedy festival. And one of my friends, the comedian Helen Keane, is running a quiz about space at 10 p.m. in the comedy tent. Now, Helen is a genius. She's really funny. She's also one of the least organized people I've ever met in my entire life. So she'd been booked to do an hour-long quiz with teams. She'd forgotten that teams need people on the teams. So she's running around this festival finding anyone she knows and trying to assemble teams. In the end, she finds one person for each team. So here's team one, me, freelance stand-up comedian. I'm about to do an hour-long quiz about space. Team two, captain, and indeed only member, is the lead engineer of the European Space Agency. I complained that this was hardly fair. So Helen said, it's fine, we'll split the audience down the middle and the audience can help you. So she split the audience down the middle. I had a chat with my side of the audience, all drunk out of their minds. Because it's a festival, it's Saturday, it's 10 p.m. They were just like normal, fun people waving their drinks at me. Helen had a chat with this side of the audience, the whole of the two front row, the rest of the engineering department of the European Space Agency. This quiz goes spectacularly poorly for me in point terms, but I had a great time. Because once you've realized you're not going to get any questions right, at that point, it's just an hour of hammered improv while people despair. Like, my team were no help. I got the question, what surface on the Earth is roughly as reflective as the surface of the moon? I was like, I don't know. I turned to my crowd, I went, what is it? And one of them went, cheese! It gets worse, right? We're half an hour in, I'm on 0 points. I say cheese to Helen Keane. She turns back to me and goes, what type of cheese? It didn't matter. It wasn't any type of cheese. It was a freshly tarmacked road, if any of you want to know. But that's the level of this whole thing that we're operating at. Now, although this is 10 p.m., it's meant to be an adult's gig. A couple of kids have snuck in. And I don't know if any of you have met the kind of 8 or 9-year-old kid who loves space and science and facts so much they will stay up till 10 p.m. on a Saturday to watch a space quiz featuring an idiot. Right? But these are kids, and they love facts more than anyone, more than my normal audience. These kids, they're used to getting everything right at school, and they can't understand why I'm allowed on stage. And these kids spectacularly, let's remember, it's 10 p.m., they're tired. They spectacularly lose their shit at the 3/4 mark. As I'm still on no points. In the front row, there's a girl who must have been about 8 or 9. Her face is bright red with rage, right? She's not sunburned, and she's just bright red with rage. And she screams at me, "You're not getting any questions right!" And I had to go, yeah, that's why Helen says Steve's team 0 at the end of each round. And then, and the kid behind, who clearly has no idea of what a professional stand-up comedian is, but is going to realize very quickly, he's so angry he's actually crying. Not tears of joy, tears of sheer anger are pouring down his face, and he screams, "You're just being funny to get attention!" That is the kid who nailed my entire life. Keep enjoying Nerdy Comedy Galway. You've been lovely. I've been Steve Cross. Good night.